Welcome everybody. I missed you last week, and I'm glad I'm glad to be back with you as we transition from really what is the last of the Shofet, which was Samson. Although there are four more chapters left, it's kind of strange. We're gonna have kind of interesting stories, and there are a couple of reasons given why they are placed here. There are those mefarshim, those commentaries that say the last chapters actually were the first chronologically things to happen. These were points of history. Some say no, it was just a continuation, and just showing you and teaching us really how corrupt and how the state that the Israelites were in. That's really what the consensus is. It's not really about Shoftim, as you will see. There will be really not so much about a savior that comes down and is able to get the Israelites out of the muck. These are just really stories of their idolatrous ways. And the first one, beginning with chapter 17, is about a guy named Michayahu, or Michayahu, Micah, which this is not, of course, the same Micah that we know in terms of one of the prophets. This is just happens to have this is his name. Some actually say it's a continuation from the book of or from the story of Samson, because you will soon see within the second verse that they have an amount of money the same as was recorded for with the story of Samson. So some say they make that illusion that this is a continuation. It could be his son. Regardless, the consensus pretty much is that these are stories to show us of how lowly the Israelites were. So without further ado, let's continue with chapter 17. Vayhi ish me'ar Ephraim ushmom Michayahu, and there was a man who lived in the hill country of Ephraim, and his name was Micah. Vayomer leimo, and he said to his mother, Elef umea hakesef asher l'chlach. Yes,
I interrupt you. Like, you look at the Hebrew name Michayahu.
Yeah.
It looks like it's like me, like who is like God.
Michayahu. Yeah. Michayahu. Right. Yeah, and you'll understand shortly why his name. It's interesting. We'll get to that. Excellent point, Henry. We'll get to that shortly when we end the. I'll say a couple of things with regards to that. Okay. Vayomer leimo, he answers his mother. Elef umea hakesef asher lukachlach. You know that 1,100 or 1,100 silver coins that were stolen from you. Ve'at alit, and you were cursing out. You were swearing out. V'gam amart beoznai, and you even cursed out in my ear. You were so close. You made it very clear that I was able to hear it. Hineh hakesef iti ani lekachtiv. I want to let you know that I'm the one. The money's with me. I'm the one who took it. Vatomer imo, and his mother said, Baruch beni l'Adonai. Blessed shall my son be to God. So does everybody understand what the story is about?
He took it, and she didn't know it.
So he steals 1,100 silver coins from his mother, whose mother who was so enraged. This was a very, very big amount of money. Cursed out. Whoever stole it should obviously be cursed. To which her son admits, I'm the one who stole it. Some people say, by the way, that this idea of he had guilt once he heard, like how much well, there's one thing, obviously, when you steal, you already have certain type of values or lack thereof. But he recognized the fact, the despair and the agony that he has caused his mother, to the point that she would be cursing out, that he actually admits it. And once he admits it, she actually says, no, you be blessed. You're returning me the money. I'm blessing you. Vayashevet elef u'mea hakesef leimo, and he returns the 1,100 silver shekels to his mother. Vatomer imo, and his mother tells him, Hagdesh hikdashti et hakesef, I have hereby consecrate all this money, ladonai miadi, from God, from my hand. I'm giving it to God, and I'm giving it to livni. I'm giving it to my son. In other words, I'm entrusting it with you. Why? To turn it lasot pesel umasecha. I'm transferring it to my son to make a sculptured image and a molten image. In other words, he's going to make a pagan symbol. Okay. Vata eshivenu lach. I now return it to you. Okay. So there was an exchange of where some say vata eshivenu lach. This is what he says. I'm returning it back to you. And this, some explain that no, the mother says, now, thank you for giving me the money. I'm returning it back to you in order for you to go out and create this graven image, okay? In order to create some kind of sculpture and some kind of, if you want to call it a masecha in Hebrews is yeah, you know, something that you hide behind. It's interesting. You put it on your face, right? A mask, and you hide behind it, and there's an illusion here in terms of what you do when you're making yourself false gods, if you are actually hiding behind them. And we'll continue with that theme later on. Vayashevet hakesev leimo, he returns the silver coins to his mother. Vatikach imo 200 kesef, vatitnei latzuref, and his mother took an extra 200 shekels, silvers, took all of this pile of silver and gave it to the silversmith. And the silversmith, vayaseu fesel umasecha, and he sculptured it into made it into a sculpture and a molten image. Vayehi beveit mi chayhu, and these items were kept in the house of Micah. Vaish Micah, and this man, Micah, lo beit Elohim, he had a house of God. He made some kind of a temple, okay? Vayas ephod utrafim, and he continued to make this ephod, which is an ode, by the way, an ode back to what? What was the ephod? Any idea what the ephod was?
No.
So the ephod was what the Kohen Gadol used to wear, the breastplate. Okay, so he made some kind of a likeness to this ephod, utrafim, and he continues to make also idols. Vaimale et yad achad mibanav, and he inducted one of his sons to be his priest. Vayhilo lekohen. So in other words, he creates his own temple, and he makes other items, including this ephod, some kind of structure which resembled that which the Kohen Gadol wore, and as well he made other idols all around, and he anoints his son as the priest. Bayamim hahem ein melech beIsrael. In those days there was no king in Israel. Ish hayasharav beinav asa. Everyone did as they pleased. So this is certainly well before this is the introduction. This is well before the creation of the land. This is thought to be taking place right after the death of Joshua. Okay, so this is actually quite in the early days of Israel.
Of the death of who?
Of the death of Joshua.
Okay.
Just as they entered the land or started conquering it, okay? Just as they started conquering the land. Vayhi na'ar mi beit lechem Yehuda. Now this is the second story, or the next chapter in this chapter. So another story. Vayhi na'ar mi beit lechem Yehuda. There was a young man from Bethlehem, which was in Judah. Mimishpachat Yehuda. He was a Judite. Vehu Levi, Vehu Garsham, and he was a Levite, and he resided there as a sojourner. So it's a little bit kind of, how can you be Vehu Levi Mimishpachat Yehuda? kind of it's a very, very strange. You can't be from one tribe and be from another tribe, right? Right? How can you do that?
Unless your mother came from one and their father from the other.
Excellent, fantastic, fantastic. So perhaps maybe it was a mixed marriage. One was what, right? One was that. So they lived with the clan. So some of it is from the clan seat of Judah, means that they lived with them. It wasn't necessarily could mean that either one of his parents was a Judite, and another one, or either mother or father. Chances are most likely was the father, because in those days it was through the paternal, in terms of
Colonial.
right, patrilineal, exactly, through the father's identity. But it could be the other ways as well. But in any event, Vehu Levi, and he was a Levite, Vehu Garsham, and he decided to live there. If you remember, there were cities that were, Levi did not have a specific land that was given to them. They had a couple of cities and couple of spots around the entire land of Israel that was kind of set apart from the tribes within which this land actually resided. So Levi did not inherit any land, but they did have some places to live in. This guy happened to live within the borders of Judah. Okay.
What's a sojourner?
That he did not own that land. He didn't own the land.
You just used it?
Yeah, he was there as he was a rentee, if you want to say it.
Okay.
He could have been kicked out. He didn't own anything. He was not a landowner,
Okay.
which is what Levi's were. As I was saying, Levi's did not inherit any land. They had rights to live. Different tribes gave up certain lands that was given, because Levi's had to have somewhere to live. But that land really belonged to the other tribe, not to the tribe of Levi. Okay,
Did they have to pay for that, or did it?
So sometimes they paid, sometimes they were given it as part of their, if you want to say, the perks of working in the temple. They were given rights to live there.
Okay.
But they could not inherit this land. It didn't really belong there. Okay.
Yeah, but we didn't have a temple yet.
Right. There was no temple yet. But still, don't forget, there's still, for the long time until a temple was actually built, they still had the Mishkan. The Mishkan was still being used. And it was in Shiloh, then it moved to another place, and there's a Megiddo, and it moved around until finally it was actually David that brings it, and it is his son Shlomo that builds the Beit HaMikdash. Okay? So it takes a while, a couple generations, before you can really tell that the Israelites take over the land and actually inhabit it properly in terms of for religious purposes, with Jerusalem as its capital, so to speak, where that is where the temple is, and they get to fulfill the entire mission, not only just taking over land, but actually introducing the religion as part of the land. But in the meantime, there was nobody. People did, so to speak, as they did. Now the question is, this is not that far after Moses, right? Moses, it's not that far after Joshua. How does that happen? How does that happen? I'm asking you that. How do you see that happening? That suddenly people don't know what to do. They don't know the religion. There were 40 years with Moses. Moses taught them all this stuff. He taught them all this. How is it suddenly that they're not doing anything? They're not following it.
Were they being exposed to other people that influenced them to change?
Excellent. That's a possibility, 100%. If you remember that people were not all the people were kicked out, right?
And so they assimilated in a way?
100%. But even then, let's say from the assimilation, they were just not that far long ago. They came out of the land of Egypt. You saw what happened there. God saved them and rescued them, gave them the land. How suddenly are they lost and everybody's doing what they're doing? Where are all the rules and regulations? How could that happen?
They're quick to forget that they had nothing and God saved them.
Okay. So the real simple explanation is that if you really look at the way that they lived for all these days, all the years when they were in the desert, it was all clanny. In other words, everybody was together. So naturally, I don't want to say they had no freedom, but everybody was within everybody was within a confined area. Yes, you lived in certain tents within your tribe, but you were all together. And Moses is all around, etc. They were, so to speak, they were guarded. Suddenly now they're taking a land. Maybe their next neighbor, Jewish neighbor, is 1 mile, 2 miles away. They might not see them, right? There is no longer that same sense of community that they had before. Some people moved away, lived alone, and it shows you how important it is to live within a community, to live within a structure, to live beside people who are like yourself, so to speak, same religion, etc. Or else, if you're looking for purpose and you can't share it with somebody, then you start doing everybody, okay, this is meaningful to me, and this is what. And then again, as you said, Esther, and they copy those people who are around you. Oh, it makes sense to me. Oh, I can see beauty in doing it this way. It's easier for me to visualize God doing it this way versus.
But aren't they still doing that in present day? The Hasidim, even among themselves, have their own cliques that they go through. There's the Bells and the other ones, and they marry within their own little group.
Right. In any event, so this is where they find that these are strange times in the sense of what of the people not knowing necessarily how to live alone, or not to live within a framework of a society. Sometimes they I don't want to say that they feel abandoned, but they're trying to find some kind of meaning in life. And sometimes it was also as we will see, it was also done out of selfish reasons. Okay, and we will see. Let's continue. So now we are on pasuk 8. Vayelech ha'ish. So this Levite, vayelech ha'ish me'ha'ir. This Levite left the city of Beit Lechem Yehuda. He left the city of Beit Lechem, where Lagur ba'asher yimtza. He wanted to take residence, to live ba'asher yimtza, where he finds a place to live, where he can make some money, where he can find a job, where he can how do you call it, sustain life for him and his family. Vayavo har Ephraim. And he ended up coming to the mountain of Ephraim, ad Beit Micha lasodarko. He ended up with Micha. Now his name suddenly changes, but it's the same guy, and he's living he's living around. And suddenly, Vayomer lo Micha, me'ain tavo. Micha greets him, sees him, bumps into him, says, "Hi, where are you from?" Vayomer alav Levi anochi, and he tells him, "I am a Levite." And we just have right now, we have Stephen Lipper, a Levite, who joined us. So Levite, this is so Stephen, this is your landsman, okay, or a couple of generations back. So he tells him, "I am a Levi, mi Beit Lechem Yehuda. I have come from Beit Lechem in Judah. Ve'anochi holech." I'm wondering. I'm walking around the land. Lagur ba'asher mitzah. I wanna find a place to live, where I can work, where I can sustain for myself. Vayomer lo Micha. Micha says, "I have a proposition for you. Sheva imadi. Why don't you come and dwell with me, live with me? Okay. However, veheye li le'av ulchohen. But I want you be for me as a father, as a figure, and as a priest. Ve'anochi eten lecha aseret kesef le'amim. And me, I will pay you 10 shekels of silver per year. Ve'erech begadim umichyatecha. I will also give you an allowance for your clothing and for your food. Vayelech halevi, and the Levite accepts, and he comes to live with Micah. On what? Under what condition? What's the condition that this Levi decides? Right? That he's that the
Going to be
the
like
Levi,
one of his own sons.
the Levi is going to be the Levi is going to be as a priest,
father and a priest.
a father. Right? He's in other words, he's going to be the religious figure to Micah's temple that he built. Okay. Vayoel halevi lashevet et haish, and the Levite agrees to stay with Micah. Vahi hana'ar lo, and the youth became this Levite became just as one of his children, kechad mibanav, just as one of Micah's own children. Vaymalem Micah et yad halevi, and Micah inducted the Levite. Vahi lo hanar lechohen, and the young man became his priest. Vahi beveit Micha, and he lived and remained in the shrine of Micha, that temple which Micha built. Vayomer Micha, and Micha says, Ata yadati, now I have known, Ki yativ Adonai li, for God has made me prosper. God has given me good stuff. Ki hayali halevi lekohen, because now not only that, I have a Levi who is my priest. And that's a play on words. And this is it's a really short chapter, and it's a strange chapter. For those that joined us late, I just prefaced this entire chapter and the next number of chapters, which there are 3 now remaining. The last 4 chapters, there's really no shofet that is in it. It's not the same structure as the chapters beforehand, in which the Israelites are going off the beaten path, and God is angry at them, and God summons somebody, gives somebody the ability to turn them around or to guide them. In this case, these are just stories that really tell us or show how off the Israelites were at that time. And some say that these stories actually took place before even the Shoftim. Some say it's not. Some say it's most likely to remind us of how desperate those times were, in terms of it was very different for the Israelites than what they were used to living together in the desert. In the desert, they were encamping together. If they didn't know what to do, somebody was watching them, or they were able to communicate with others. Suddenly, they're finding themselves living in separate from one another. But this last, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you know what year this was in? What period of time was this happening?
So this was roughly, I can tell you, roughly around 1400, 1450, 1475 BC.
It's pretty
Something
early.
like that. Okay, around.
Okay.
Give or take. I'm giving you a roundabout. If you look at this whole thing, really, Micha's consecration meant nothing at all. He had no authority, right? Think about it right now. It's. Let's go back again and just understand what the story is about. We have this man Micha who steals 1,100 shekels from his mother, and after hearing her curses so deafly, he returns the money, and she instructs him to take that money. She gives him even more money, and to use that silver to form how do you call it? Pesel and umasecha, to create these idol worshipping items. And he builds this shrine, he builds this temple, and he starts making up his own religion, or making up his own deity, so to speak, or if you ever want to see, even his own way of connecting with God. But really, at the end of the day, whatever he consecrated really actually means nothing. He had no authority from God to declare anything, or even this Levite as a Kohen. He had no. These were all. It was a useless shrine, and in this tragic account, actually each person is also responsible for a sin because the Levi took it upon himself because of money. He needed money. Okay, so what do you want me to do? Great. So he's also part and parcel a partner in I don't want to say crime, but in this whole scheme. All right. And one can actually say that the Levite might be even more guilty than Micah. Why? Because the Levite was at least supposed to know that the word of God, right? If he's considering himself, why would he say I'm a Levite? Why?
So you can get the job.
No, but he introduces himself at the beginning as a Levite, right? Why? He says
to establish his status, who he is.
Exactly. Thank you, Stephen. As a status to let everybody
As a
know.
Levite, I understand that.
Yes, there was a status to him, being a Levite. Ooh, what tribe was Moshe from?
Levite.
Levite. Aaron, even the priests were from the Shevet Levi. Shevet Levi was set apart. The entire Shevet is Levi, and only one family, all Aharon and his descendants are the Kohanim. So you have only one family of Kohanim. That is why also in Shul, Kohen is the rarest, because it's only one family of the entire nation. But Levi is everybody minus that family, minus the Kohanim. So it's a little bit bigger. It's 1/12, if you want to say kind of, maybe not 100%. I mean, all the tribes had different sizes, but one tribe, the entire Levi minus one family, that was the tribe of Levi. But they were consecrated to God, and they did have a certain status. So he uses this status in terms of I'm moving. I'm a Levi. I'm allowed to move. You know, I have by God. I'm allowed to. You know, he's given me rights to take on land in other places, even though I can't inherit it. But I'm a Levite. So arguably, you can make an argue that not only was he supposed to know the word of God, because they were given all their work was dealing with temple stuff, but he uses it in order for Micah to be able to feel good that he's created his own temple. So in a way, one can say that's even worse. And this whole thing is based on either superstition, man-made, etc. And even if you want to say that Micah was actually sincere in his belief, in terms of, let's say that he was really, wanted to do this as a good part of his heart, he's still totally wrong. That's not the way that we go about it. And one person once said that, even if a person is really sincere, or she's really sincere in swimming across the Pacific Ocean, chances are he or she can't do it. Sincerity doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right thing to do. Sincerity doesn't give you the green light to do things, since you can be sincere in doing things that are wrong. Even if you mean well, but you're not supposed to be doing them, sincerity doesn't give you the right, doesn't make it right. Getting a religious authority, which was the Levite, to bless his idolatrous enterprise, which he created on his own. So Micah actually believes that now he can co-opt God to do what? Into churning out the wealth that he craves. And that is what verse 13 is. Vayomer Micha, Tayadati, now I know, Ki etiv Adonai li. God will make me prosper. How does he know that God will make him prosper? Ki hayal li halevi lekohen, for I have now a Levi as my priest. He's giving himself. Who made up the religion?
Levi.
No, who made up the religion? This his thing, Micah. So according to him, you can believe you are now, so to speak, the God, right? He's the one who's making up the rules. He's the one who's giving definition to the religion. Now he has somebody, the Levi, that gives it kind of like the okay, right? The kosher stamp, or at least some kind of status. He says, okay, now I deserve by now that I have a real, by my rules, God now yetivli. It doesn't say will or might. Now God has to make me prosper. That's what happens when we make, human in this story, we see that human creativity, and certainly Micah is very creative. You can see he has this certain energy, he has this certain religious attachment, if you want to say, but all this creativity is unfortunately wasted, and when you manufacture a make-believe God, Esther, this is what you said, which happens even today. It might not happen in the form of a mask, it might not offer, form of idol or what we consider idols. Or a mask by definition is something that we hide behind, and we use make-believe gods as a cover for our greed and for perhaps even our arrogance. And this is the pretext of showing us, giving us an idea of how lost the Israelites were when they started settling into the land. I think it's it's still, and again, even though there is no judges here, the stories that are shared are always stories that still ring today, have a universal message every time we read them. We learn something from them. It wasn't just a point in time, which of course this book does take place in. We're told about a story that was once, but the lessons that we learn from the story are universal every time we read them. And we know that and I think all of us to some extent are guilty of this, some to more extent or another. We fall into following our hearts, following certain things, putting the wrong priorities ahead of real priorities that should be. But regardless, we're sometimes blinded also by our make-believe gods, so to speak, or what we feel is the important or the essence in life. And sometimes we come to learn that these things are not, and we mend our ways, etc. But I think again, this story serves just to give us an idea of why all these shoftim were needed. The interesting thing is, the question is, why weren't these stories told at the beginning, before all the shoftim, but they're actually added at the end? So that we'll tackle in the weeks to come. Any questions?
I get the feeling for some reason at the beginning that this is a group of people that are going to be part of the prophets that became the followers of Jesus. Why am I feeling that?
I can't tell you, because we don't have any, our scriptures. That's an interesting thing. I don't believe so. These are not how do you call it? Jesus comes around 1500 years after this.
No.
1400
Why
years.
I asked you about the dates.
Right, 1400, which is a long time. So I think regardless, even in today's age, we have various arms of Judaism, that splinters off and tries to find new meaning, tries to find a more something that speaks to them. Perhaps there's it's out of acceptance to do something more mainstream rather than just our rituals are so different than ours. Why don't we make it more universal so everybody can understand what we're doing, and then we actually lose our identity. That is part of who we are. And I think the simple end of the story is just, from silver, from gold, doesn't make a difference what it is, because in those days, that amount that is spoken about, 1100, and then another 2000 to 3100 pieces of gold. If you see, by the way, if you do the math, he's paying him 10, right? He's paying him 10 silver coins a year. So if that is roughly, plus of course he has also like the budget for his clothing and his food, so that's as an aside. But it seems that the way that they're saying, that he fills his hand, in other words, he gives him a lot. It's not just a minimal amount. He's giving him a substantial amount. In those days, 10 shekels was a big amount. So imagine what 3,100 shekels is to turn that into an idolatrous item, chachka, if you want to say. That's a huge amount of money. So obviously this person was not poor. Michael was a man of means. His mother was not a poor person. She had somehow, whatever, we're not told what, how she was wealthy. And he still had greed, right? He had all that he wanted. Imagine what he has if he's paying somebody to be his priest. He's a man of means. But what does he want still? Ki etiv, I want more. God will make me prosper. He's already prosperous. So what is his motive? What is his idols? What is his God? Money. Wealth. For him, wealth is what guides him. And in other words, if once he doesn't have enough. And what do our sages say? Is who is rich, hasamech bechelko, one who is happy with his lot, who's satisfied with what he has. And this man obviously is not satisfied with what he has. He wants to prosper. He's not prosperous now, even though he's rich, but he needs more. He doesn't really recognize what he has, and he's blinded. And he created deity that blesses himself. It's kind of it's almost like it's a circle. It's going around in a circle, you know. And this is somebody that would be, the way that we read it. This is somebody who's intelligent. He's not somebody who's quite smart, and yet he still can't see the light. When we're blinded, sometimes even the simplest things that are in front of us, either we don't want to see them ourselves, we physically don't want to recognize it, because our drive to get whatever that is so strong, or two, simply we can't see it because our drive is so strong that we can't even see what the truth is. And that's the danger.
There's a lot of that in the world these days. Well, there always has been.
Always,
probably always will.
Exactly. Always has been and always will be. And that is, again, why these stories are so important to say, because they're universal lessons all the time. It's not just a one-timer. Even it might be in a different context, but the lesson itself, the essence, is all the time there. And that is why these were canonized as part of the writings. And excellent. Thank you, Esther. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you, everybody. God willing, we'll pick up next week. Let me hold on.